This video was made possible with the help of Game Toppers. Upgrade your gaming experience with a Game Topper.
Hello chaps and chapettes, you're looking at a survival horror game. No, it is not a dungeon crawl, and no, it's not a two-player skirmish. Although it does have the feel of those two games and maybe the look of those two games, this is survival horror. So why is it a survival horror? Well, as I said, this is a two-player game, and one player is going to be playing the heroes, who will be a band of merry thieves that have been converted by the church to go and fight the demon spawn arriving from hell. And while you're setting up your scenario, the hero player will be going, "My God, this mission's impossible!" And yes, it will feel very daunting for the hero player who has this one objective to achieve, but all these monsters to fight and block the way. And as the hero player continues to explore and their team gets whittled down to a very minimal skeleton crew, they will start to feel claustrophobic. And that's why this game is called Claustrophobia 1643. Yes, this is the reprint and Kickstarter edition of Claustrophobia by Croc. The game is a streamlined two-player back and forth with some very simple mechanics. In fact, I can explain the mechanics in 1 minute. The basic mechanics of the game are asymmetric. Both players will have practically the same kind of actions to take. The preparation phase, where they take an allocated number of dice, roll them, and then assign them to their console. For the hero player, they will allocate one of their dice results to each of their heroes. That will be a line of activation and dictate the powers of that character, their defense, their movement, and their attack strength, and maybe even a special power. Whereas for the demon player, they're going to be using their dice to collect cards, collect prima materia gems, or use the values of their dice to cheat at the game. Yes, they have some cheating to do. Well, you know, they're demonic, so why shouldn't they? The demon player has a bonus phase where they will make monsters pop up on the board depending on how much primer gems they have, before players will have their action phase where they can move and attack, or attack and move. Simple as that. That's the rules. That's how the game plays. But what makes this game interesting is all the decisions that you will have to make to do your objective, whether it be wipe out all the heroes or, you know, plant a bomb in a portal which is spawning a big monster which is coming through a portal, like Cthulhu style. Players are going to have a lot to do because there are 20 scenarios provided in the game, and each scenario will be different. They will either be like a pre-constructed labyrinth, or there'll be a randomly generated labyrinth from drawn tiles, and these tiles are big and thick. Most of the tiles have like a special action that can be performed or will happen when players enter those spaces. And each scenario will have a different setup for the hero player and for the demon player. For the hero players, they will have a different combination of heroes, and they will be sliding their character sheets into their consoles and then collecting any material and weapons and bits and bobs that they may start the game with. The same thing for the demon player. The demon player will have a selection of demons that they can bring into play, and each demon has their own powers, and that will change how you will play the game. Some scenarios will play longer than others, some are pretty short, and I would advise playing a scenario several times in a row instead of just going from one to another, because that way you can have a nice back and forth. So you could play the demon player for this scenario and then swap positions and play the same scenario and get a different experience. Once you've chosen a scenario, you'll have to do the setup, and that can be quite a long process as you're switching the cards in and out. You're looking for the equipment, you're essentially looking for the right tiles, and either making a stack of selected tiles to be the generated dungeon as the adventurers go, or you're looking for the tiles to place out on the table. And as you can see, this is a big box, which means that you're going to need a big table to put this all out on. It does eat a lot of space with these big consoles, these big tiles, and this is just a 2-player game. But it needs that bigness. It needs that bigness to hold the dice. These consoles hold the dice nicely, and they also hold all the wound markers and any extra tokens and bits and pieces that will be sliding into the consoles themselves. If the consoles have been made smaller, these dice would have to be made smaller, and these consoles will probably be a little bit more fragile, but they're nice and sturdy, and you can see everything, and it displays the wonderful card art. And if the consoles were smaller, the dice would have to be smaller, and they are a little bit hard to read if you have failing eyesight. The big tiles make it perfect to put lots of miniatures on them, because some of the tiles will have lots of miniatures on them, but you still need to see the information on that tile to know if that tile has an effect, and also the amount of miniatures that can actually be on each tile. Yes, this is another part of the strategy, is how you move your monsters or your heroes around the labyrinth, because there are certain spaces that will be blocked by a number of monsters or heroes. And so you're going to have to chain your movement as need be. And again, when you activate a hero, you perform all of their actions, or if you activate a monster, you perform all their actions before moving on to the next one. This ain't no Hero Quest. It's as simple as Hero Quest to learn. In fact, you can teach it to quite young children. But it's the devil's in the details and all the little complex, well, not complex things, but the movement and the powers and the cards that you can play. Now, talking of dice, this game has luck in it. Yes, you're going to be rolling dice, which is a big facet of luck. You're going to be drawing sometimes in certain scenarios tiles at random, which again is luck. And you're going to be drawing cards at random, which are luck. But the major difference between this version of the game and the original version of the game is that the heroes now have cards that they can draw from, which will help mitigate some of that luck. Yes, these cards have some superpowers on them, which you can power up some of your warriors each turn, but they also have the ability to change the luck of the dice. Let's say you've taken a lot of damage on a character and you're allocating your dice to each of your characters so they can move and attack. You may find that you've got no result which matches the number of your dice. Therefore, that character won't be able to move and won't be able to attack. And you really need them every turn to move and attack. Luckily, these cards can be used either for the superpower or to change the value of your dice. The combat dice. The combat doesn't feel nasty in regards to luck because the values are pretty realistic. To hit anything, you just need to roll the same value as their defense or higher. And as seen as most of the monsters have a value of 4 and the trogs have a value of 3, you're going to be doing some damage. Of course, the hero players are going to have defense levels which are going to go up and down, but that's good because that increases the interaction between the players. The demon players are going to have to be looking at what defense each of their characters have and then decide which one they're going to beat the crap out of the most. It's great that the dice come with a skull, which means number 6, which means that you are instantly going to take a wound. It doesn't matter if your defense is 6 or higher, you're going to take a wound because that's what that does. Now, although it sounds like a combat game, the main strategy of the game is about the movement and how you place your characters. Everything boils down to the values of how many characters can be on a tile. Also, the blocking, which is done by the superiority of a team on that tile. And it's just a race for the hero to get to their destination to achieve their objective. Now, the game can sometimes come to a chugging, chug slowdown, especially on your first couple of playthroughs, because you are constantly having to look into the rulebook to find out what these special powers are and what does this tile do and what does this monster, this demon's power do. You know, I've played this game 7 times and I've demoed it 20 odd times, and yet someone would come up to me and say, what does impressive mean? It's like a word which doesn't really explain the power. Is it this hero here is impressive and he blocks the monsters from leaving, or is he impressive and he can take the damage of another hero if a monster hits? And I'm always asking myself that question. It's just a little bugbear of mine that the wording doesn't really refer to the power. And again, there's no reference sheet for you to just, quickly look down and go, oh, you've got to dig up the book. And luckily it's all at the back, in the back 3 or 4 pages, but you still will have your head buried in there. This is the perfect 2-player, back and forth, skirmish feeling, dungeon crawling feeling. This scratches the Descent itch, but it works brilliant as a 2-player game, unlike Descent, which is a bit more of a mouthful. Everything is quite simple to go through, as I said, apart from referencing the rules every now and again, and the scenario as well, remembering the scenario. Some scenario cards would probably be useful as well. But it is joyous when the hero player crushes the demon player, and then there's this big upstanding roar of applause as, wow, I didn't think you were going to do that because I had all this. This is probably a fantastic game for your kids. As I said, it's quite simple to learn, and you could put your kids in the role of the demon player because they feel like they have power over you, because, as I said, each scenario is daunting for the hero. It feels unbalanced, but it's not. And I can prove that because, as I said, I've played this game 7 times, and every time I played the hero against my friend, I've lost. And every time I played the demon player against my friend, I've lost. So the game's not unbalanced, it's just that I'm a bad player. So let's get to the nitty gritty. Claustrophobia 1643 is a board game that every tactical miniatures lover will like a lot. This is a great 2-player game with the back and forth really different. So every time you play it, if you play either side, you're going to have a different experience. And with the scenarios, they all feel slightly different as well. So there is a different flavor and a different objective and a different tactics are in play. My technical score for this game is a 9.5 out of 10. All the productivity on this game is phenomenal. The way the game fits into the box in this wonderful insert. The detail, the artwork, although a bit lacking on the tiles and the cards and on the consoles, it's still very good. The quality of the card is fantastic. The consoles is always something that I wanted in every game, to stop your pieces moving about. This game is just stellar in every way. The reason it's a 9.5 is it loses out a bit on the detail of the dice, because sometimes they're a little sure to be seen. As I said, it's a bit black and white, and also needs reference cards or a guaranteed space on the table for the rulebook and the scenario book to remember your scenarios and your special powers. And my BGG rating for this game is an 8 out of 10. I enjoy playing this game. This is a great game that I can get out with my daughter and play a nice back and forth game for an hour with, and she can feel that she has superiority over me by playing the monster player and having this big elite force of monsters where she's whittling me down and stopping me from getting to my goal. And it's great. I like playing this game in comparison to Descent as a 2-player game or any other games like that, because with Descent and Imperial Assault, there's a lot of information because you're going to have to control more than one character, and to remember all that information and all the different special powers is a bit of a nightmare. Whereas here, it's a little bit more simpler, a bit more lighter. And again, you don't have to think about the rule set too much because you know what the rule set is. Roll the dice, allocate them, and move and attack. And just try and win. Really enjoyable game. I do like it. It's a big box, which is a bit of a for a 2-player game. And it takes up a lot of table space, which is another reason that it's, something that I can't get to a lot and not want to get to a lot. I'd rather play, a smaller themed 2-player game like King and Assassin, for example, which is, 20 minutes of fun. It's that size. But this is a great for that kind of like dungeon crawling experience. Even though it's not a dungeon crawl, it is a tactical movement game for 2 players with combat and monsters and an impending doom for the heroes. So there you go. What do you think of the game? Have you played it? What do you think of my review? Is it too objective or too subjective? Yes, I've got a Monolith t-shirt. I have worked for Monolith and I'm currently working with Monolith on a soundtrack for this game, so look out for that coming very, very soon. But at the end of the day, I am a reviewer and I take the work that they've done and I process it as I do everything else. So if you've liked this video, please give it a like. If you know someone that might appreciate learning about this game and what I think about it, then share this video with them. And if you want to check out everything else that I do in the board game world and also some written reviews, you can go to boardgameseverybodyshould.com. And that is it. I'll say thanks for watching, ciao for now, and remember to play nicely with each other, because if there is a hell, that's where you'll be going.
Just sitting at the table next to Felicia would be quite nice. Wouldn't it be good? I got some board games.